Good evening and welcome. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. This is Spotlight Africa, brought to you by Spectrum Television and Planet FM. Today on Spotlight Africa, Niger's ousted leader petitions ECOWAS court for help. Ghana's leader repeats demand for slavery reparations. Rwanda's Kagame says he will run for fourth term. Trial of HIV vaccine to start in South Africa, plus Kenya and Haiti establish diplomatic ties. These stories are all just ahead of Spotlight Africa. We begin Spotlight Africa from Niger, where the ousted Nigerian President Mohamed Bazoum has appealed to the West African bloc ECOWAS's court for his release. According to reports, a suit was filed with the court on Monday demanding Bazoum's release and reinstatement as president following his arbitrary arrest and violation of freedom of movement following the coup in July. His wife and son, who are also being detained by the military junta, are named in the application. ECOWAS has threatened military intervention to restore Bazoum to power if diplomatic efforts fail. In another development, Ghanaian President Akufo-Addo has demanded the payment of reparations to African nations for the historical injustices of the transatlantic slave trade. Speaking at the UN General Assembly on Wednesday, he emphasized that this was the time to bring the subject of reparations to the fore. He said the world had for centuries been unwilling and unable to confront the consequences of slave trade. It is not the first time the Ghanaian president has spoken about reparations. Last year, he said the time was long overdue to intensify discussions about the issue. He then called for a formal apology by European nations that were involved in the trade and urged the African Union to engage the diaspora to advance the reparations cause. According to the UN, the transatlantic slave trade, which affected millions of Africans, was the largest forced migration in history and one of the most inhumane. The exodus of Africans was spread to many areas of the world over a 400-year period. Ghana was one of the points of departure for many of those enslaved in West Africa.
And it is time to bring the subject of reparations firmly to the fore. Granted, the current generations are not the ones that engaged in the slave trade, but that grand inhuman enterprise was state-sponsored and deliberate, and its benefits are clearly interwoven with the present-day economic architecture of the nations that designed and executed it. Reparations must be paid for the slave trade. No amount of money will ever make up for the horrors, but it would make the point that evil was perpetrated, that millions of productive Africans were snatched from the embrace of our continent and put to work in the Americas and the Caribbean.
Away from that, now, Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi has called for a speedier withdrawal of the UN force in his country to begin this year. He told the UN General Assembly on Wednesday that he had instructed his government to begin talks with the UN to bring forward the start of this progressive withdrawal from December 2024 through December 2023. Tshisekedi said the mission, known by the acronym MONUSCO, had failed to bring peace in the country despite being there for about 25 years, adding that it was illusory and counterproductive to continue to cling to the force to maintain peace. In a separate development, Rwandan President Paul Kagame has said for the first time that he plans to run for a fourth term in elections due to be held next year. The Rwandan government in March decided to synchronize the dates for its parliamentary and presidential elections, which are due to be held in August next year. Kagame had previously not made his intentions clear, but has presided over controversial constitutional amendments that allowed him to serve a third term. Meanwhile, a former rebel chief, Kagame, has been regarded as the country's de facto leader since the end of the 1994 genocide. He won a third term in 2017, taking home nearly 99% of the vote. Meanwhile, Rwandans have expressed delight after UNESCO added 5 sites to its prestigious World Heritage list on Wednesday. Nyungwe National Park, a biodiverse rainforest, earned recognition for its unique flora and fauna, including the endangered eastern chimpanzee and golden monkey. Additionally, 4 genocide memorial sites joined the list. Meanwhile, Nyamata, Murambi, Gisozi, and Bisesero sites commemorate the tragic events of the 1994 Rwandan genocide, where an estimated 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were murdered. In another development, South Africa and the United States are to start testing a new preventive HIV vaccine and have begun enrolling participants to take part in a clinical trial. According to U.S. state research agency, the National Institutes of Health, NIH, the vaccine called VIR 1388 is designed to help a body's T cells that are part of the immune system and patrol and inspect other cells for problems. The vaccine is intended to instruct the immune system to produce T cells that can recognize HIV and signal an immune response to prevent the virus from establishing chronic infection. The vaccine trial is funded by the NIH, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the U.S. company VIR Biotechnology. The study will enroll 95 HIV-negative participants at 4 sites in South Africa and 6 sites in the U.S. Reports say the initial results of the vaccine trial will be announced in late 2024, but that some participants will continue with the trial for 3 years. It will be recalled that in 2020, the NIH suspended the testing of another HIV vaccine in South Africa after a review found that the vaccine was ineffective in preventing HIV transmission. Elsewhere, some 90 primary school students have been hospitalized after eating muffins suspected to be laced with cannabis in South Africa. The incident, which took place in Soshanguve Township, north of Pretoria, came to the attention of the authorities after students displayed symptoms of nausea, stomach cramps, and vomiting. Gauteng education member of the Executive Council MEC, Matome Chilone, expressed his concern and said that investigations were ongoing. Meanwhile, 3 South African Navy submariners have died and 4 others injured after being washed off the deck of a submarine by high waves. The vessel was off the coast near Cape Town when the 7 crew members were swept away. Reports say a helicopter was delivering supplies during a refueling operation at the time. The South African National Defence Force, SANDF, in a statement said the submariners were participating in a Navy exercise at the time of the incident. According to the Army, all 7 members were recovered, but sadly, there were 3 fatalities, with 1 senior officer in critical condition. It added that 5 others were saved in a subsequent rescue operation. Meanwhile, police said an inquest was opened after the naval incident. In the meantime, 7 people have been arrested for allegedly kidnapping a gay university student in South Africa by luring him to a meeting through the dating app Grindr. The 18-year-old undergraduate at the University of Witwatersrand was reported missing by his roommate on Tuesday. Police say the kidnappers then demanded a ransom of around $1,500 from his family. Reports say the gang was caught when one of the suspects attempted to withdraw the ransom money from a cash machine in Johannesburg. It led the police to where the victim had been held captive, and officers finding him bound and unconscious. The suspects have been linked to at least 85 cases where members of the LGBTQ community have been targeted for ransom. Now, South Africa has one of the most liberal constitutions in the world, which protects gay rights, and is the only African country where same-sex marriage is allowed. But many gay and lesbian people still face hostility. and discrimination. In another development, Haiti and Kenya have established diplomatic relations. According to a joint statement issued by both countries, the document signed by both the Haitian and Kenyan foreign ministers announces they are to exchange ambassadors. Kenya has offered to send 1,000 police officers to Haiti as part of an international assistance force. The Haitian government appealed last year for foreign help to tackle widespread gang violence. Meanwhile, the United States has been leading UN efforts to organize a rescue mission. According to reports, a draft resolution is being prepared. Meanwhile, a moment of silence has been observed at Kenya's Westgate Mall in the capital, Nairobi, on the 10th anniversary of a terror attack in which 67 people died. 4 heavily armed militants from the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group stormed the upmarket shopping center and took control of the complex for 4 days on 13th September 2013. The attack exposed the poor coordination of interagency security teams in responding to terror attacks. The siege ended when the 4 gunmen were killed by security agents. The details about the attackers still remain sketchy, though 4 people were charged with aiding the militants. Meanwhile, the government recently announced a new counter-terrorism strategy involving private security guards. In the meantime, Kenya's pharmaceutical regulator has recalled an oral medicine used to relieve pain and fever in children, citing urgent safety concerns. The Pharmacy and Poisons Board (PPB) said it had received multiple market complaints regarding the quality of several batches of the paracetamol oral solution called Tramadol. Reports say the PPB ordered pharmacists to halt the sale of the branded drug and urged the public to return any stocks to the nearest health facility. Manufactured by a Kenyan pharmaceutical company, it becomes the 9th in a growing list of medicines so far recalled by the regulator this year alone. Meanwhile, the PPB has issued a warning about suspected substandard and falsified batches of Visipec, a drug used to help diagnose disorders of internal organs. The regulator says the affected product batches, which were manufactured in China and Ireland, had entered the country's market illegally. Elsewhere, a proposed anti-gay bill in Kenya. The Ethiopian military issued a statement saying it had completely thwarted an attempted attack on Sunday by 450 Al-Shabaab militants. The commander of Ethiopia's contingent in Somalia, Colonel Fiyisa Ayele, said Al-Shabaab had also left 3 explosive-laden vehicles on the road, which his troops had destroyed. He did not mention any Ethiopian casualties in his statement. It is rare for Ethiopia's army to respond to reports of attacks in Somalia, where its troops are supporting the government in its bid to wipe out the Al-Qaeda-affiliated militants. This has been Spotlight Africa, brought to you by Spectrum Television and Planet Radio. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. My name is Xavier Robert, and do enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye for now.